Hello Pikcio followers, welcome back to yet another episode of Pikcio Answers Your Questions. So we've been gathering a lot of questions across different channels. Again this week we selected what we believe are the most relevant and the one that come up more often. And here they are, so I have two for today. Let me jump right in the first one. Medical services are one of the two primary use cases. The medical sector is not eager to utilize new technologies, regulation, computerized system validation, etc. How will you tackle this and convince the sector to adopt the PikcioChain technology? All this is really right. Actually, the health as a sector, it's something, especially here in Europe, that it's not really moving toward technology. It's a bit, I don't know, in the middle age, I must say. But things are still moving forward regarding blockchain technologies. They really understand the benefits out of it, especially regarding the patient, the user control over his medical data, because the medical health data, they are really sensitive data. So they are really eager to look for a solution that will really encompass new mechanisms regarding data privacy and new ways to share this data. So we pretty much come handy, and we also had a very meaningful and really good conversation with the regulation here in France. So we are moving forward. We will launch very soon a proof of concept with a batch of several doctors, several patients, to run some tests and to prove the usability behind that. Because not only we need to convince the regulations and the ministers, but we also need to convince the health professional, the one that will really use the technology at the bottom level, because they are not technological expert. They very often have computerization resource that is very scarce. So we have to comply with all that and to cope with all this. And this is something we can really do, and this is something we are going to do in the coming days. We have this POC, proof of concept, that's going to start very soon in the south of France here. And the goal is go by iteration, prove that the things are going right, that the things are relevant, and I'm sure everything will move forward. And at the end of the day, the adoption will go step by step, as I'm sure it will be successful. In and out again.
So throw it out. Take out the trash, Dan. The trash is anything that is keeping you from the only thing that matters. This moment. Here and now.
So, second question. The GDPR regulation does not allow customer data be taken out of the EU. With PikcioChain, the data producer returns full control of their information. Hence, it means that the data owners can decide to allow their data be taken outside the EU if they can make more money out of it. Will this be a violation of GDPR? I'll just stop right here first. There's a second question after. So GDPR stipulates that as a business, you cannot move European citizen data out of the borders. We're speaking here about physical constraints, not digital. This is applicable only if the user do not consent to do so. You can actually move the data out of Europe if you have an explicit consent from the user. So that's not something that it's totally forbidden, but that's put in the hand of the user at the end of the day. And this is what the regulation wants. It's more control over the data by the user himself. We don't want, the regulation don't want to restrict him in any kind, just want to protect him against malicious business or malicious parties that might diffuse or send the data over different other locations. So if the user consents to do so, the data can really leave the EU spectrum and go outside the border. But again, you need the explicit consent of the user to do so. How is PikcioChain going to address this? So far we are building right now a European infrastructure, because regulation here is really ahead of many countries. even Asian countries like Japan, they will now follow GDPR. GDPR is really like a test bed, but a lot of countries are going to follow up. So for us, makes it more relevant to follow regulation. So at the end of the day, that's where the PikcioChain is going to be regarding all the distribution of the servers. But we want to grow the system, we want to grow all the infrastructure and to have no restriction regarding the borders. Well, we are going to create clusters of data according to each regulation. But also, since we are able to, catch the user consent on any operation, at the end of the day, we'll be also able to move data from one point to another. Again, PikcioChain is not hosting any data. PikcioChain is just processing data to make certification, to monetize the data, not to store the data, but we can, trigger some movement within one storage location to another if all the partners play it fairly. So at the end of the day, we will still get the consent of the user and we'll still be able to move the data pretty much where the users want, for any purpose he wants, since it's his own data. Okay. I hope this addressed the question. And what I invite you to do is to stay tuned so that we can reach again next week and answer some more questions.
Oh, hell no!
I heard that. You know the rule.
Oh, but I can rebuild.
Thank you again, and I wish you a very good week.
Hi, we have a question from Kay. Have you looked into expanding China and studied their data privacy standard? And is PikcioChain already China ready? So, on January the 2nd, the Standardization Administration of China released the final version of the National Standard on Personal Information Protection. And by the way, the standard came into effect on May 1st this year. The standards regulate the use of personal information by controllers and is largely aligned with the strict conceptualization of GDPR in Europe. For instance, explicit consent is required for collection of sensitive personal information or use of personal information for new purpose. Requests for access to, correction of, copies and deletion of personal information and withdrawal of consent must be responded within 30 days. We are already working in China regarding IoT and especially connected cars. And this was the question.
No! What are you waiting for? Do it! Just do it! Yes, you can! Just do it!
Another question from Vandercom. Recently, a mobile authentication task force comprised of AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, and Verizon was formed. PikcioChain would be good partner in this mission to develop a mobile authentication solution to help protect enterprises and consumers from identity theft, bank fraud, fraudulent purchases, and data theft. Does PikcioChain intend to integrate into this task force and into more telecommunication projects in this area in other parts of the world, like Africa? Well, the T-Mobile and Sprint announced a few days ago an agreement to merge and to create a giant nearly as large as AT&T and Verizon Wireless. The Mobile Authentication Task Force was announced in March as Didier and I were in the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. They reveal product details on next generation mobile authentication platform, which follows a similar initiative launched by Korean operator SK Telecom, which deployed T-Auth, a mobile Connect-aligned authentication platform. Pikcio already has ongoing discussion with telecom operator in the Middle East and in Asia regarding the development of a specific wallet dedicated to the certification and exchange of mobile data, including localization, app, web, etc. Regarding Africa, I personally will attend the Africa Blockchain Summit next week in Tunisia, where I'll be a speaker on a panel dedicated to the blockchain opportunities in e-administration. Goodbye.